This is Adomako Man, and you are tuning in to the Producing Peace podcast, a podcast that celebrates the vibrant tastemakers shaping NYC's cultural landscape. From artists to activists, we spotlight individuals driving positive change and shaping the future of our city. I'm sitting with a multifaceted creative with a diverse body of work. He has contributed to the Kid Cudi documentary A Man Named Scott and served as the photographer for Black As You Are. He has also showcased his dance talents with artists like Case the Killer, Billy Porter, FKA Twigs, and Jadena. His collaborations extend to esteemed organizations such as Moby Fest, GLAAD, and Afropunk. His work has garnered attention on platforms like Billboard and 2190, and he has photographed renowned artists like Lion Babe and Willow Smith. These accomplishments merely scratch the surface of his expansive creative journey. I am sitting with Yinka Parris.
It's so funny to hear you like.
Yeah. Why?
I don't, because I don't think like that. Like I don't like add it up.
Mm-hmm.
So
what does it feel like hearing it add up?
I got to fact check. I'm like,
that's me.
Like, yeah. It's a blessing, honestly. Like I think like I've had amazing creatives around me that given me opportunities. And my head's been down for a long time, so I think now, like looking up, I have to like remember, like, oh, okay, yeah, like let's start writing things down again and like do the research and build a story, because I think that's what my journey is now. Like hearing it and being like, oh, right,
like that's me. I did that.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. Or giving it the proper language or what exactly it is. Like,
so. Well, let's start from the beginning. Where are you originally from?
New York.
No part.
Born and raised. I like to say Harlem, but I was raised in between Harlem and the Bronx. For sure, I went to school in the Bronx, and then all of my family is in Harlem. Like I have a huge family, 115th Morningside. Yeah.
You know, it's I connect with that because I say the same thing. I was born on the Upper East Side, then raised in Spanish Harlem, and then there was a point afterwards where I moved to the Bronx. I moved to like Fordham Road, and then that was my upbringing. And then up until then, I've constantly been back and forth. What part of the Bronx were you originally?
I was over on 160th.
Okay.
Like it was South Bronx, right?
Okay. Yeah.
South Bronx.
And then, so what was your upbringing being from, you know, West Harlem and then going to like East Bronx?
I think I've always, I don't know if it was you said what was my experience?
Like what was it like being Yinka Parris growing up in these spaces?
Well, I have four sisters, so everything I experienced kind of came after them. It was kind of like, oh, you can go there now. That's where you're at. But
the youngest.
I'm the youngest. I'm the last. I'm the baby, the last born. Yeah. My sister Africa, really, I was always with her. So,
her name is Africa.
Yeah.
Wow.
Africa Parris, which is literally like,
wow.
Yeah. So Africa, she kind of was like the pioneer for me, where like wherever she was at, I was at. So big family in Harlem, smaller family in the Bronx too. Like I went to school there, and then also I'm Muslim, so. And we have a mosque in Harlem, so which always made me frequent between those two. And then my family used to throw a lot of block parties in Harlem, especially on 115th and Morningside, like throwing a jazz festival party on 116th. So it always just made me have large community in Harlem and make my way all the way back up to the Bronx and stuff like that. But yeah, it was always good. Definitely eventful. I will say that with a lot of cousins.
Yeah, I mean, you said you have 4 older sisters. Wait, how much older was Africa than you, where she was bringing you around?
Me and Africa are 14 years apart.
Wow.
Yeah, 14 years apart.
So you were like the baby.
Yeah. She raised me. But,
wow.
Yeah.
And then, so what was it like being, like, growing up Muslim then? And then, you know, I'm curious because, well, can we talk about like where Yinka comes from, like your origins, like your family origins? Because, you know, like I know where you're from, but like I'm speaking in the context of like for this podcast, and this show that we're, you know, that I have you on today.
But like I understand that you're like you have like Caribbean and West African background. Can you
Yeah.
explain
Yeah, for
that part of
sure.
you?
Yeah, so my mom is from Barbados and my father's from Nigeria, so that's just a mix right there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, I grew up with like a really strong sense of like family, I would say too. Like having that combination of family, it's like family first, you know. That
Mm-hmm.
it's no other idea. You grow up around a lot of aunties for sure, a lot of uncles, a lot of cousins. So I've definitely always been rooted and I've
Mm-hmm.
always had like a responsibility of having to like check in with family and be like responsible. Even being like the youngest, like I've always
Mm-hmm.
known like, oh, family first, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, being Nigerian, being Nigerian, that comes with like a lot of things too. That also comes with a lot of responsibility. It comes with like knowing a big part of your history, like me being older now, that's been a big part of my journey now, actually discovering like what it is to be a Nigerian man as well as like a Caribbean person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been a hell of a journey because I kind of just always grew up in the mix of it. And I kind of just, I realized I kind of took it for advantage in the sense of being like, oh, this is just how we are. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like we have this balance of Caribbean and um, the diaspora of like African in us and stuff like that. So we're all kind of like this. But as me growing up, I realized that wasn't like the case. So
Mm-hmm.
now I'm really like holding on to it, being like, no, I really grew up in a unique way to be like not only a Bayesian man, but like a Nigerian man and then Muslim on top of it. It was just
Mm-hmm.
like layers on layers on layers, which I think just made me like present now, you know.
Mm-hmm. Wait, so did you ever visit Nigeria or Barbados before?
I have Nigeria twice, Barbados three times.
Okay.
In the midst of that too, it's been like there were like breaks in between. So I have like a connection there too, but not more so in my adulthood.
Okay.
Like my adulthood is like, oh, I need to like invest back into like Nigeria and Barbados. But I have visit and I have like family over there too, for
Which
sure.
parent is Barbados and what parent is
My
Nigeria?
mother's from Barbados, my father's from Nigeria.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what so you were literally in the blend of, these intersections of being Muslim and then being Caribbean and West African. And
Yeah.
then I'm curious because not often do I get to meet like, Caribbean yes, but like African no,
Mm-hmm.
like queer people. Because would you say you identify as being queer
Oh
or
yeah, 100%.
okay? Like
Why
yeah,
not? Yes.
yeah.
No, yeah, for sure.
And so like, what was there? Would you say that you had an ease into that too? Because we've also talked in the past about feminine energy, like keeping you warm growing up.
Yeah.
And so like, was it easy for you, or was that like another thing that maybe was a little bit difficult?
Um, I feel like I wouldn't say it was easy, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I had it a lot easier than most. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have women in my
Mm-hmm.
family, like
Mm-hmm.
women on every corner, every side of the room. Like there's women, so feminine energy exists, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I looked at it like, as feminine energy growing up mostly too. And my father is a very confident person too, who isn't also the most masculine person, but he definitely represents other energy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't grow up understanding like whether my energy was feminine or masculine.
Mm-hmm.
I think it more so, I became more so well aware of it through dance.
Mm.
And then family wise, my sisters really kind of like shielded me, like in the sense of like allowing me to like just grow up. Like I never got like the hand slap or like walk this way type stuff. If anything, um, it was encouraged, or my sisters were just very protective of me. Where I didn't really hear a lot of it. It was really in the outer world where I started to be like, oh, I'm feminine. Like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but I think I was already a little bit more confident in myself and how I showed up before that really started to like. affect me in a way of being like, oh, like this is feminine, this is masculine, I should be doing this. My parents were pretty chill, pretty
Mhm.
chill about it too. And I don't know if it's because I was the child, and by the time by the time they got to me, they're like, I'll take whatever I can get. Like,
Because you were the only boy.
yeah, I'm the only boy,
Mhm.
so. And it could have been that too, where it's
Mhm.
like I'm the only boy. How can I not have feminine traits? But I never had the experience of being like told to not be a certain type of way. So
Mhm.
I I mean that kind of like gave me the starting line.
Mhm.
Like,
I mean, I often say this because I have that same experience.
hmm
I mean, I feel like in the end, to some degree, like our parents just want the best for us. And
yeah,
during the time where we were growing up, our parents might have been like, I don't want my child to be a certain way out of
hmm
safety. But like, for the most part, like my mom, she was very welcoming to my feminine energy as well. And I often say that, my parents felt that way because they saw a part of us in them.
mm
And like, you talk about family and you say how like you grew up in a communal space. And I feel like when family really rides for each other, they're like, I see you in me and I love that part of me because we're riding together.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
think that's probably the reason why your family dynamic was like that. Would you
yeah,
say?
yeah. I would say that too. Like, without a doubt, my sister Africa was like my is my like ride or die. Like, I know for sure. Like, I didn't feel a lot of things. Her and my sister Fatima, like
Mm-hmm.
them two for sure. And Fatima's the middle child. Like, I know for sure that them two were the people who were like just like the screen door between things for me. So yeah, I would say that's a big thing. Would you say that you and your family, that you've actually had the conversation with your family? Was that ever something that ever came up with you?
So I never really officially, because I grew up with two sisters, and then I grew up with a brother, and then my mom. My mom was the first person. No, was it? No, the first person I told was my sister Queen, and I remember she's gonna probably hate that I'm saying this, but I remember when I first came out to her, she had a generic response, and like it because I remember I took her to the prom,
Mm-hmm.
and she was wearing like this beautiful white gown, and a lot of people were like, oh my god, she's like who is this girl, she's not even going here, she looks so pretty.
Yes.
And then like,
Right.
and because it was just like it was like so simple, like everybody was doing the most,
Mm-hmm.
but she was so simple, she looked graceful. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
my sister name was Queen, by the way.
Right. Right.
Like, and so my parents had a lot of like love and
Mm-hmm.
care and were tender with us. And so, but yeah, so like I remember we were in this car ride to the prom, like junior high school, and I told her, and then the first thing she said to me is, I think I need to be angry at you. That's what she says, and I'm just like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, it was like chill vibes. She was chill. But I feel like there's like this conditioning
Mm-hmm.
that people are like, we need to be this way towards this group of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I told her, and then at some point I told my younger sister, or I might have told my mom afterwards. But I specifically remember telling my mom only because my mom and me were so close. And I remember I was reading it off of a letter because I didn't want to like steer off the goal of
Mm-hmm.
telling her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that day, either the day before, I was just hanging out in the village.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like I was hanging out on the
Oh my
piers.
gosh.
And I don't know if you had this experience, but like growing up in New York, like at some point you ended up at the piers. I was at the piers at 14.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
yeah, even if you don't even realize it's the pair, like, it's
Uh-huh.
something. It's something, the algorithm that you tap into,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know what it is. You find Christopher Street, like you find it no matter what way. Like, how you're gonna find it. You're gonna
Mm-hmm.
be there for 15, 30 minutes, scoping and seeing like, oh my gosh, is anybody like me here? And then you make
Mm-hmm.
your way home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely been there and experienced that.
I
That's
mean,
interesting. Yeah.
I remember like I was like, because I was hanging out with the kids out there and they were all like coming out. And I was like, I think maybe it's time that I
Mm-hmm.
do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I grew up in a specific way where like I felt like I didn't really need to address my sexuality until I
Yeah.
was in a romantic relationship with a partner, I was like sexually exploring myself in that way. So I don't know. My family was very welcoming in
Yeah.
terms of my sexuality. But I don't know. I mean, like, it was more or less like, we just ride for each other,
Yeah.
and I feel like a family who rides for each other, like, I think, that was something that I learned from you, actually, because when we went on that retreat to Alkebulan
Yeah.
Oasis retreat, you said something, I can't even remember what it was, but it was talking about the idea of like healing and being a part of a community. Do you remember what you said?
We talked about so much. We had a time.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Very not really, but we
Yeah.
just talked about so much.
Because I just remember, because I think,
Were we in the car?
no, this was when we were having like that round.
Oh,
We can't say too much about
I
it,
know.
but I remember there was a moment where we were all talking, and you might have said something along the lines, because someone else like was combative, and you was like, if we were, because the whole question. We'll get back to that.
Yeah. But I understand what you're saying.
But
Yeah.
I think I want to also touch base on like your Muslim faith. Like, is that something you're still deeply connected to?
I would say that it's more rooted in that's how I grew up,
Okay.
and I feel like I am a Muslim man. I feel like that is I tend to not realize how much I think in that way until like the aftermath, and I'm like, oh, that's very Muslim of you. Like,
Can you give an
oh, the,
example?
I don't know if I have an example, but I know the people that I tend to be closest. Like, I have a friend that I've gotten really really close with, cis woman, and she also is Muslim, and also is in the queer world and understands it as well. And I at first I was like, oh, this is gonna be fun. I've never really invested myself in having like a lot of other queer Muslim friends. I've always
Mm.
always been friends with a lot of other Muslim people in my age range just by knowing each other, out through the years and being most like, oh, I know your mother, oh, we both went to the same mosque, we both went to the same school type thing. But mostly in this year, I've actually come across more Muslim queer people in my age range and like really adapted to having relationships with, and um, I realized like I had to like really understand like it has to be like more personal for me because I'm not going to the mosque every other time. Like I only yes I'll celebrate and like occasionally go to the mosque, but like I'm not praying every single day anymore.
Mm.
Uh, Will I ever get back to that? Maybe, but I think I have to be in a more stronger place
Mm.
and a more like um peaceful space, like a space that's like
Would you say you're not right now, or?
I would say I am, but I think I'm like on this journey. Like I
Mm-hmm.
really think I'm like on this journey of like really defining myself 100%. I think I'm a Virgo, so I'm
Mm.
comfortable with comfort, as well too. Like once I build it out, once I've painted it blue, it needs to be paint. You know what I mean? It needs to be glossed over for a second, and my identity is strong, but I want to make sure that like I'm not just holding on to something, you know what I mean? I want to make sure that it's rooted, and I feel like my Muslim faith has always kept me strong and it's always been a part of my identity.
Mm-hmm.
But like I'm challenging myself in my 30s now. I'm challenging myself like what does it mean to be a career Muslim? Like does it mean that I have to
Mm.
be at the mosque all the time? Does it mean that I have to have not I mean, can it mean I have queer Muslims around me? Like, what is that relationship is like with acknowledging faith, also acknowledging my queer existence? Like, it's a larger conversation, that I'm just like tapping into because I've always just held on to my identity as a Muslim. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm Muslim. I'm born and raised. My mom is Muslim. I come from a family of Muslim people. I go to the mosque. I do all the things that's right, but like, is it mine? And I think
Mm.
in my 30s now, I'm like in that space of like, how strong is my faith? Yeah,
Versus like it being a routine. Why is it part of who you are?
yeah. Like, why is it a part?
Mm.
Exactly. Like, why is it a part of who I am now? And
But now I'm curious because, just like me, I'm not a Muslim person,
mhm,
but I am an ally of like specific communities, specifically that, and like I've come across a lot of Muslim queer people recently, and I just wanted to know, like, what is that experience like for you sharing space together? It's in New York specifically,
Um,
or you have like an international, um, rooted community in queer Muslim faith?
um, no, not an international. I think it's quite small now. Like I don't know that many other openly openly queer Muslim people personally.
Okay.
I know hell of queer people, but it's as
Hmm.
far as like Muslim faith, I don't really know that many people, or at least they're not as open to me. Like I have some
Mm.
people that maybe I'm like, oh, like I'm just waiting for you to say something. You know what I mean? Like because I can maybe their comfort zone,
Hmm.
the comfort level or whatever you call it, but. As of right now, it's pretty small, and
Mm.
that's a new journey. That's a new journey
Mm.
because even down to us, like we're both African people. Like the you could be in the African community largely in here too, but then are you in like the queer African community? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
because then that's nuance in itself, and then that's almost I wouldn't say it's hush hush, but it's just a certain type of it's a different world. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like
Hmm.
yeah.
I mean, I've made it a mission to like always find community wherever
Hmm.
I go. And so I remember like you met him actually, Eddie, who was at the table read.
Oh
And he
yes.
was the first um, Ghanaian gay
Hmm.
person I probably
Hmm.
think I've ever met.
Hmm.
And that had to be like 2012, 2013. And I just remember like when he told me he was Ghanaian, I was like, what?
Yes.
Because he knows Melissa, who was at that table read
Okay.
as
Okay.
well.
Yeah.
And I just remember like every time I would go places, he was there. And I was like, I need to establish some sort of like relationship with him.
Hmm.
And so I don't know, like every time I meet like Africans who are like African and queer, especially kind of the fact that like what some of us have to deal with in the continent of
Hmm.
Africa,
Hmm.
I'm always like, let's stick together.
Yeah.
I mean, I want world peace.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, but I find that beautiful that you're making out the that you're exploring that part of yourself.
Yeah. I think. Thank you. I think
Mm-hmm.
now it's mainly because like I want to be as transparent. I want to know myself, and I think in this new space that I'm growing, I realize like it's like I told you before. Like I've had my head down for a long time, and now that it's up, and I'm looking around, I'm like, oh, I've done this. I've done this. Let me write this down. Let me become more organized. Let me put this. Stamp the name like I'm realizing I've built a community around me, and it's a mixture of queer people, it's a mixture of non-queer people too. Like, also, like I'm realizing the also a lot of the African artists that are around me too, where I'm like, oh, like I can start naming so many amazing queer African artists that are around me now too. That I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, like you're amazing. Like off the top of my head is an amazing artist that I like. The world will know. Like his name is Moinga, and
Mm-hmm.
he's the most phenomenal like painter out here. Like I was introduced to him through my partner Richard, and like
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal out there. And I'm like, the world needs to like know your work like beyond, and they will for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But like people like him, I'm just like, I have a platform now. Like, how can I do a collab with you? Like, how can we like take over? Like, you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like, and I
Yeah.
feel that way about everything. I want to take over with everybody. So you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? That is just my energy right now where I'm like, listen, let me hit it while it's hot. Like,
Mm-hmm. I mean, I definitely have to look that person up.
mm,
But with your work specifically, like, what do you remember? Like, what drew your interest into the art world? Um, yeah, like, what drew your interest into the art world?
well, I feel like I've always been a creative
Mm-hmm.
in general,
Mm-hmm.
and dance has always been just accessible to me. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've always um, been able to be someone that can move, and that was just like a big part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as extending it to art, I think fashion played a big part of us going to fashion industry high school
Mm-hmm.
and discovering how to create a photo or like
Mm,
a really beautiful image. And with that, I just
mm,
started documenting a lot. Like in high school, I started documenting a lot of things like photos and video, like specifically in high school.
mm,
And I've always just like had a love for that in
mm,
general. Also being the last born, you're kind of like you take the least photos. I think you're kind of like I feel like when you're the last born, the people have had so many memories that they forget to pick up the camera sometimes.
mm,
Or like you have when you're the last born, you're used to just going and just flowing with it too, that your memories are a little bit more faster. So I had to remember to capture things, like specifically for myself. Like if I'm not in it, at least I know I've captured the moment. And I
mm,
think that journey just grew beside alongside dance.
mm.
Um, yeah, then that fell its way back into like photography and videography and like working for other artists and capturing their stuff, you know?
I can relate to that, and I definitely see that in your work. I mean, of course, you're an artist, but I feel like, which I identify because I feel like I kind of shoot in the same way, in terms of like you're you're photographing to of a memory. Like I look at your work and I look at your work and be like, people are gonna remember these moments.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's what I look at when I
Ah,
see your work because it's like people out,
yeah.
people having a good time, like people at events,
Mhm.
people like very intimate moments too. And
Yeah.
so I've noticed that in your work. Um, but we originally first, came in the same space together is because we went to the High School of Fashion Industries.
Yes.
Yeah, that I so with my experience with the High
Yeah.
School of Fashion Industries, um, I came in sophomore year,
Hmm.
and just for to give people context about the high school fashion industries, it's like a school in Chelsea.
Yeah.
People study fashion. A lot of different people have gone there, including us.
Yes.
And so I just would see you in the hallways, and you was you was
Yeah.
hanging out with some people who kind of
The mix up of
it was
it.
mixy.
Yeah, I know. If people only knew what it was like to go to school in the city, first of all,
Uh-huh.
specifically to go to our school.
What would you say that was like?
Ooh. I'm gonna say it was fab. Like I
Yeah.
want to say it's fab. It gave us I think we had the starter kit to like really
Yeah, I agree.
like this industry that we're in now, to how to navigate people, how to navigate. You learn how to communicate in our school because you was just
Mm-hmm.
so many different people. It wasn't a school that you only had to, so only certain levels mess with each other. We kind of all had to like interact and deal with each other. Oddly enough, like it was just a plus we can go out, out of the school. Like we just have freedoms that I know schools now don't have. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so we just grew up in high school in a very specific time that was unique to us. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but like as crazy as our school was, I wouldn't like trade it for anything. I think it gave
Mm-hmm.
me such skills. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
every single person that I knew back then, like, it's in school, I run into, we end up having some type of connection way later on in life. Like, or I'm on a gig and the person's like working it. I'm like, we were like the Harvard of high schools. Like literally, it's like connections that you just made.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely learned a piece of myself in our school. Like
Mm-hmm.
we had a lot of freedom to really express ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was a bit of keys along the way too, but it built
Mm-hmm.
hard. It built tough skin.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you in school though too.
You
Like,
do?
of course, of course, I remember you in school. Like for sure, I think.
Because we
Of
were in different grades.
Yeah,
You were,
we were in
yeah.
different grades,
Yeah.
but I always told you that you've always stood out. I think Ivan, you, Louis Peralta,
Uh-huh.
um, Jonathan Goddenhire,
Uh-huh.
and so many people, Ashley Cox, and
Uh-huh.
so many
Yeah.
different people that G Day. It was so many different people that stood out in school,
Mm-hmm.
and I can go on and on even about your grade of people that stood out. Um, but I feel like we all kind of had an eye on each other a little bit too, whether we interacted or not. I think we've
Mm-hmm.
always been like, Yinka, what's going on?
I think that was because once again that was a lot of feminine energy in that
Yeah.
school. So like if you were a boy in that school, you were
Yeah.
immediately popular.
Yeah.
Like because everyone knew you'd be the only boy in the classroom.
Right.
And I just remember seeing you around. You had like a Caesar cut, I believe.
Yes.
And I remember you would hang out with some of these
deep waves.
you had the deep waves. And I don't know why, but for some reason I specifically, maybe my memories, like I'm imagining things, but I remember you wearing like a striped navy blue and white shirt and like denim jeans, like skinny pants. I don't know why that's a specific memory.
Oh my God, probably.
Yeah, and so I just remember seeing you around and you would hang out with these guys and it was not you, but it was like these guys they would hang out with who were very like, they would rip you to shreds. And so because you were around them, I was like, I can't talk to you.
Yeah.
But turns out you wasn't even like that. Mm-hmm. It was just the company you was around. And then also too, I realized that some of those people were just like battling their own things because we were so young.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned during that time what major were you in that school?
I was fashion design.
Okay. And so you originally wanted to, explore designing and...
Yeah, I wanted to control... I've always been like, I want to control my image. Like, I want to control my image. If I'm not creating an image, I want to be to contribute to molding it. And like, I mean, to bring my sister back up, my sister Africa really taught me, like, how I've watched her be not only an amazing dresser, an amazing curator of like just events and fashion and so much stuff too. So like, I just wanted to mimic that in my best way possible. If I'm like, if it was on me and my art, how can I do that? And like, fashion was the first space that I can find that in before I knew, outside of dance. You know what I mean? Like, I can mold my body. Okay, great. Cool. I can dance. I can control how I move. Great. Now, how do I control and how do I create in a different space? And I think fashion was that next level for me. And yeah, you can explore. And I feel like that was like the next level. I'm like, hey, let's figure this out. If I can make the clothes, I'm in the room. I can make the clothes, I'm in the room without a doubt. Like whatever room that is, it's needed. This is a skill that will be needed in all fields.
And you still use that skill from time to time?
Here and there, yeah, for sure. For sure. It's like if I need something, I will bust that out, like and try to do it myself too. I need to sharpen up a little bit more, but I could still sew my ass off for sure. Yeah.
And then, I mean, but then you somehow made your way to dance.
Yeah.
You said you were dancing in high school?
Yeah, I was dancing in high school. Also, dancing was like a moneymaker too. Like, so it was like, oh, I can make money from this.
Were you like in that whole get light squad, or what kind of like dance squad were you?
No, I think I was like, bitch, I can dance squad. Like
get light. Like chicken noodle soup. You remember that era?
Yes, of course. Yeah. A little bit. I mean, you're from Harlem, so you're like going off. I'm pretty sure it's some YouTube videos randomly around. Oh, I probably shouldn't even say that. Like it just randomly pops up like chicken noodle soup it up.
Yeah. Wait, did you know Africa Owens by any chance?
Africa Owens. I'm not sure.
Because you keep saying your sister named Africa, and the one Africa that I know she's not your sister.
Yeah, imagine.
But she was like this. It was like this whole story about Africa and like how she was with this dude and she ride hard for him and like we're gonna talk about it because
we be chatting.
Yeah, and also too, I think I want to try to have her on the show if I can. I want to like talk. I don't want to like say anything crazy.
See, like I heard your last episode. No. But
like your dance, like you was dancing in Harlem. Like what was dance like for you in high school then? You was dancing professionally in high school.
Yeah, I started dancing professionally in high school too. What was it like in high school? I also was part of the dance team in high school, which that's how me and Ivan Leon got really really close, who also was another amazing creative. And it was us two, the two boys amongst many girls, leading a dance troupe. And that really sharpened my skills because he's also an amazing dancer. And then from there, we kind of jumped into the commercial part of like the dance world and was doing a bunch of different auditions and really just like figuring out our individual way. And my way was also because I was a part of the artist community, so I had access to artists in general. Like, oh, you're a singer, you need a backup dancer, let me dance for you. You know what I mean? Like, so I ended up dancing for a lot of New York artists out through high school into college, and then started building up a lot of commercial work in between.
Who was you
And
dancing
then
during
too,
high school?
oh my god, there's like a lot of rant. I don't remember like Nikki Darling. I don't know if you
Mhm.
remember Nikki Darling. Um, oh my gosh, I can't even. There are a lot of random New York artists, like a lot of random New York artists for sure. And then I
Wow.
remember Jonah Biddle. I was a part of Jonah Biddle dance company called. Oh my gosh, what was the name of the company? Hypno. I believe that was Hypno. But do you know Jonah Biddle?
No, you're putting
He's
me on. I'm
Jonah
gonna.
Biddle is another amazing creative choreographer, creative director.
Mhm.
It's a beautiful black brother
I'm
along with
gonna
us.
look
Yeah, yeah,
up
yeah.
tonight.
It's just so that's what I was saying. I was around a large community um, that just provided access to like the creativity that I wanted to do, and it was like
Mm.
dance is what I 100% have available to me, and it's not something I have to even think about. I'm gonna utilize my skills. Like
Mhm.
I'm gonna, in a lot of ways, it was armor. Like it
Mm.
allowed me to, it's kept me out of trouble. It kept money in my pocket. It allowed me to explore and see the world at, from a young age.
Were you part of the ball community at any point, or?
Adjacent. I feel like
Okay.
I've always been friends and always have been respectful of the ballroom community and like cut up. Like I've
Mhm.
never been afraid to like cut up.
Mhm.
So I've always been in the mix of that too, but like never
Mhm.
officially in the ballroom community, at least not yet.
Mhm.
Like, so yeah.
What have might have? I mean, I feel like we're all so nuanced, and
Hmm.
like we don't all have to like be like tethered down to any specific community. We can be in many. But since you were so connected, and you said that you had like a strong alliance in a way,
Hmm.
what held you back from like diving in deep into exploring that world?
Into the ballroom.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
think I think mainly I knew I wanted to explore art
Mm-hmm.
overall,
Mm-hmm.
and in a respectful way. The ballroom community is a chosen family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
You
you
already had your family.
I've had, beyond having my own family too, the chosen family that I did have was a mixture of ballroom art, people who are not in that too. So it
Mm.
just never fell into my hands like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And whenever the door was open to me to the ballroom scene, it was always in a supporting role of creativity
Mm.
or observing or being a performer. I performed with I don't know if he is still performing now, but his name was Boy Radio.
Oh yes, I
Boy,
know him.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So Boy Radio performed at the Latex Ball,
Oh
and that was
wow.
like my way of performing at the Latex Ball. And me and another amazing dancer, her name is Amira,
Mm-hmm.
and we ended up performing there along with another amazing dancer, Craig. Um, and I was adjacent to performing there too. And
Mm-hmm.
people already knew that I was, performing, but I'm not in the ballroom scene. So it's always been like that. Like,
Mm.
yeah, I'm doing things in the ballroom scene, but I'm not 100% in it.
Mm-hmm.
Plus Cakes and
Mm-hmm.
everyone else.
I'm curious though, like how, because we didn't grow up with like, we had Facebook, we had
Yeah.
MySpace, but like how were you finding your way into the dance community? Was it your sister, or was it like just like you found like random forums? Like
No, honestly, I think I was just in the mix.
it's
Like,
just that,
well,
yeah,
I
they would have
think
like a lot of Harlem events,
a
and you
lot of
just.
Harlem events, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of like I've never been a kid. I've never been afraid to just be out. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? Like and mix in like I'm a people lover. I'm a black enthusiast. for
Same.
sure. So like, if it's Black and it's like celebrating us and it's putting us in a space of allowing us to be as full as possible, whatever that, which way that may swing, I'm more than likely in the room. Like, and I would love to be in the room. You know what I mean? So I think when it came to that, when I was younger, I was still searching for that energy, like the energy I'm still searching for today. Like, I was like, oh, I want to dance. I want to be around other creatives, and I didn't shy away from being like, there's a dance rehearsal I can go to and possibly be a part of a group deep in Brooklyn, and I'm all the way in the Bronx. I'm gonna still go. Like, I used to go to a rehearsal all the way in Coney Island City, living in the Bronx with Ivan, to dance with an amazing group that toured and did everything, and we would literally go to rehearsal every other day, deep down in Coney Island, get home at 10:30, 11 o'clock, and like, completely proud of it. Like, I wouldn't change it for a world. It gave me hell of an experience. Like, now I'm like, those hours mean nothing to me now. I'm like, do you know what I used to be? I used to have 12-hour rehearsals. Like,
Wow.
yeah, and it just found my way, and I just kept the connections with people. I just kept the connections with people and just did what I was supposed to do. And you're right, we didn't have MySpace. I mean, well, we had MySpace and Facebook.
But that was it.
That
Like,
was
but
that
it
was
wasn't,
really it.
it wasn't like this.
Yeah, it wasn't like this where you had to keep up.
It's like on steroids now.
Yeah, it's on steroids now. Also, I think now it seems kind of impossible to do without social media. But like, I feel like networking was so much stronger back then, because you really had to either be there or you weren't there, you know, or you had to really invest in having a relationship with people or really catch a person's eye. You know what I mean? And that, I wouldn't say it's gotten lost, but you know, we have social media now, so you can put your best content out. You know, you can serve the best you at that moment. The journey is not really seen as much, but the beginning, the hype part of everything starting, this is the journey I want to go on, and then that leap to finished product is mostly shown. And I think when I was coming up, that journey was a big part of it. It was like, oh, I've been seeing you. How are you doing? What's going on? Oh, make sure you come out to the next one too. I have my eye on you. And you're like, oh, they have their eye on me. Right. I'm coming the fuck through next time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I had one time, especially when I really wanted to get into commercial dance, I started really training at BDC.
Oh, I remember that place.
BDC, honey.
Right next to a strip club.
Yes. The strip club.
Isn't that kind of like crazy?
Yeah,
how they set up?
Yeah. And it was funny because I knew, it was, oh my God, yeah. Right next to that strip club.
Did you know someone who went to BDC? And then
yes, I mean, that was the gig, honey. Like, it was like, that's the life. A lot of people don't realize there's so many hustles you have to have.
For real, living in this city.
And you may not even be a stripper. You may just be doing coat check. You know what I mean? So it's just a hustle. But I started going to BDC a lot, and like, I was like, I need to model myself. Like, what are these dancers that I look up to? Like, how are they moving? What's happening? Like, when I'm into something, I want to like study it. Like, I will go. Yeah, I will go in and examine. So I would go to BDC, sit down, like 2 months straight, watch classes, and then I fell in love with Jonte Moaning. I don't know if you are familiar with him. Jonte Moaning, amazing choreographer. He choreographed for Beyonce, Freakum Dress. He was in Renaissance. He had the blonde situation. Yep. Staple, honey. That is a phenomenal.
Is he from New York?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know about originally, but he's been here for a very long time, killing it. Started taking his class, and I like, that broke me in. That gave me like the edge of me being like, oh, I know I can move like this now. And one time he said to me, he was just like, keep coming, like, I'm watching you, like, I like how you move, like, you get in it. And I'm like, okay, like, I got it. And I just kept coming until I felt like that was in me, like that big part of me was, and that's my MO for everything. Like, I'm going to
Mhm.
put myself in a room. I'm going to study it. I'm going to be in a room. I'm not just going to ask you for anything. I'm just going to be like, hey, I'm here and I'm showing up. I'm 100% ready. What's up? Like,
Mhm.
um, yeah, but that was it as far as like the dance world and kind of.
Hello.
Hi, hi, kitty. Come
Sunny's
on.
gonna make his way down. Sunny, I'm gonna need you to make your way down.
Hi, Sunny.
Um,
Sunny smells my cat, probably.
it
Hi,
is
Sunny.
totally fine for this to happen. But I'm gonna
Nah,
actually
nah.
just move.
This what happened in my.
Okay, my little friend. But it's so crazy, like us saying remember those days because I still feel like those days are yesterday.
Yeah.
I often feel like I still do believe that we are still young. People will
Yeah.
always say, "Oh my God, we're so old." I'm like, no, we have
Yeah.
so much life to live.
Yeah. We're the youngest of the adults. Of the adults. We're the youngest of the adults.
And I mean, I totally second you on that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know, like, because you were saying like during a time where people say I was watching you,
Mm-hmm.
during that time, what is New York City like then versus in comparison to now?
Oh, that's a good question. You
I
ate
mean,
that.
well, I mean, I say this because, like, for example, like my experience growing up, like I didn't wait on lines, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that to like
Okay.
flex. Like,
No.
it was just more or less like me and my homies would step up and they would let us in.
Yeah.
Like we were hanging out with like
Yeah.
small and like people who were recognized and people who weren't recognized.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like now in New York City, it's like you there will not ever be a time where you're hanging out with a celebrity again,
Mm-hmm.
or you're hanging out with someone's publicist.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that was a time then
Yeah.
where you was doing whatever you was doing,
Mm-hmm.
and like now it's
Ooh.
like everything is like pointing cameras at
Yeah.
everyone. It's
Yeah.
just such a different time in terms of how we enjoy ourselves.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like through your experience, because you always share with me these epic ass stories, and I'm just like, can that happen now?
Yeah, I don't. You know, it's so funny. I don't know if it can happen now.
Mhm.
I think mainly. So the difference is like back then, like we really back then.
That's what I'm saying. It's
Oh my
crazy.
gosh, back then. Well, and when we were really in the mix and really like doing our, we start doing our things now, but really just on the come up in our youth, trying to like stake claim to what we are now.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like a lot of that was so casual and possible. You could just be at like a bar in Lower East Side that like someone's like, yeah, the DJ talks to this person, this stylist is this person's stylist, this person is this this person is who, this person is came in from here, blah blah blah. That person designs for this, that's the editor for this,
Right.
and social media wasn't that heavy,
Right.
so it wasn't the camera always capturing every moment, which didn't make people scarce and being like, oh, I can't be doing this, I can't be doing this. Like it was just a comfort of being around people, I think,
Mhm.
in general, that I
Mhm.
think now it's more so even if I'm in a room, I need to be hyper well aware. I need to be hyper aware of who's in the room. I don't think like that, but a lot of people do think like that. A lot of people are
Mm.
in a space of like, well, we who's coming? You know what I mean? Who's gonna be there?
That's so
You know what I
wild to
mean?
me.
Like who's gonna be there? And versus we didn't know who was gonna be in the room.
Right.
We were showing up. We just had to show up,
Right.
like or
I still am like that.
yeah, like
I
what's
roll the
up?
dice.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cause like it's like if you're gonna be in yourself, like then you're gonna still have to show up. Like you're gonna still have to show up as Yinka. You're gonna still have to show up as Odomoko. Like,
Mhm.
hello. Like now, a lot of people are deciding. Not all. I don't want to sound so old. Like a lot of people are deciding how they want to show up based on who's in the room, and
That's so wild to me.
that's the difference of like what I consider like the icons and like the people I'm like, oh, they got it. Like they got that it factor because like they showed up how they wanted to be. They showed up with 100% their own energy and like who they are representing, and you can tell the difference. You can tell the difference. Like you're one of those people like you come into the room or you are sharing yourself with people. you know that you are sharing 100% of who you are a part of it. And, like, I've always said, like, I felt your energy. I've always been well aware of you. Like, you represent that type of person that I wouldn't even say that you beat to your own drum. I just think that you're well aware of who you are presenting, like, as a person overall.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, prime example. Right? Oh, Sunny. Yes, come on, Sunny. Hi, Sunny. You want to lay with me? This is proper. Come
Yeah,
on.
he needs to like
Come on.
get his groove on, and
Mm-hmm.
then he'll move on.
Cool.
So he's moving on now. Do you okay? Do you
Oh yeah, no, I'm fine. I have a cat too. My cat name is Cleo.
Oh,
So he feels the cat energy.
okay. Long as you're cool with him sitting
Oh
there.
no, I'm fine.
I totally received that. Thank you.
Yeah,
And
of
I
course.
see the same in you. I mean, like I said before, like you and I, we didn't speak in high school. I just would see you around,
Yeah.
and I was like every single one of us. I was fascinated by, because I remember when I first came, it was like that. I was sophomore year of high school, and I felt like everyone was out,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and that was new to me. And people would be like, "Oh, he's gay." I'm like, "I'm not gay."
mm-hmm.
Or I would just be like, or instead of saying I'm not gay, I would be like, what do you mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
because till this day, if people ask me if I'm gay, I'm like, why do you want to know? You're trying to hook me up with someone? Like, why do you need to know?
Right.
Like, it's not even about shame. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like, I feel like I'm a Libra, so everything comes with intention, like
Right.
weighing out the pros and cons. Like,
Right.
why do you need to know?
Yeah. How does
Um,
this benefit you?
right.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I just remember seeing you in those hallways and just like you still are beautiful. But then afterwards, I remember then I would start seeing you on stage with Cakes. And
yeah.
I just remember like watching shows or going to shows and then like seeing you on stage. I was like, oh my God, I went to high school with that boy.
Yeah, down.
And so how did you guys meet?
So to this day, I still don't know how me and Cakes met. Like, I've known Cakes like all of my, I want to say all of my life, but like from my late teens into my
Wow.
adulthood, and I cannot tell you how we've met. I felt like he's always been there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm like, how did we meet? Like, it's so funny. My first memory of Cakes is a MySpace video of him going off rapping like in his like high school um uh lunchroom or something like that too.
Mm-hmm.
And then my memory starts to build after that. But I'm pretty sure I knew who he was before then. But because we've always just been friends.
Mm-hmm.
The dancing part came a lot later,
Mm-hmm.
as him doing music, which was a blessing that I just happened to be a dancer and us both being great creatives. And it was just like, why not? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why not? Because you have two amazing dancers right next to you. Like, let's just go off.
Mm-hmm. And you guys would tour together.
Yeah,
Like you would
tour,
not even just the city, but the world.
Yeah, we toured the world. I saw the world with him. Like, that's one person that I go like, hey, you had to be there to experience. Like, our connection can never be challenged.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Our relationship can never be challenged just because we have the most amazing experiences together.
Mm-hmm.
Not only beyond my own experience in dance and seeing the world, I was able to see the world as a queer artist, as a dancer, like dancing in my truth, dancing with an artist, breaking barriers at that time. A lot of people assume that the barriers are just now being broken.
Mm-hmm.
They're not. Like, if you were touring as a queer artist, openly queer artist in early like 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18,
Mm-hmm.
it was a lot of things that you had to like see, go through, really like poke the hole through for people, like just
Mm-hmm.
experiencing you, like doing college tours, doing festivals, being in different countries where you're like, how are they going to receive us? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We were doing that from very young,
Yeah.
like, and just running across, like being on tour with Mickey Blanco and Leaf, and that was like a reality for us. But we were literally like the first a lot of the first to kind of do that in our time,
Mm-hmm.
and like we saw a lot
In hip hop,
in
by the
hip
way.
hop,
Isn't that crazy?
yeah,
Yeah.
in hip hop, and he's a phenomenal rapper. So like
Yes, one of my
artist,
favorites.
yeah,
Yeah.
he did it, and I love Cakes. I love
Mm-hmm.
Cakes. Like we've been through it, and we our relationship has grown, and we
Be careful with the
oh
mic.
yeah, sorry. um, we remain to have a beautiful relationship, and it grows and grows and grows and grows, and then we're connected through my best friend. So that's a continuing journey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, the way how you make it sound, which I'm sure it was just, it's a beautiful story. Like, no, seriously. Like, think about it. Like, Black, gay, same gender loving men touring the world through hip hop.
Yeah.
Like, that is not a common reality.
It is not.
That is numbered.
Yeah.
Like, numbered. So the
Yeah.
fact that you got to experience, what were some of the places that you guys went together?
Oh my gosh, we have seen the world. We've been to London, Paris, Lisbon, Russia.
Russia, what was that like?
Oh my. You about to get blocked on YouTube. Russia was its own experience. I would definitely say that Russia, I've always been well aware of how Black I am, and how and who I show up as, but like I really felt it in Russia. It was like, oh, I'm a Black man out here, honey. Like I am a Black man. Like,
was it?
Be very clear. Like,
was it like be very clear or be very cautious?
Cautious and be clear. Like it's weird when like you see other African folks and they look at you like what you doing here? And I'm like, what? Like what's going on? Like what is that?
Uh-huh.
And I did have some experiences there that really made it I wouldn't say scary, but very clear that it was like, oh, you're not other, or let's make it clear you're a Black man over here, like let's keep it cute. And that never takes away. I always tell people, traveling as an artist, there's almost an armor that you have too. Like you get treated a little bit differently. You do have a bit of a safe zone wrapped around you, but like don't get too crazy with that because that can easily switch. Like, but I've always traveled and toured the world with artists and as an artist, so I've always felt safe. I will say that, but I've always been very well aware things could possibly be different if I wasn't touring as an artist, or I came here as just a tourist and just hear stuff like that. I know I get a little extra like comfort in me being in certain spaces because I have the protection of being an artist and being on stage. So yeah, it was that wasn't all my experiences, but Russia stuck out for sure.
Really?
But I had many other beautiful experiences in Germany. And through my tour, Berlin was like one of my favorite spaces to this day.
I feel the same way. It's my favorite like European country.
Like literally
that I've been to, because I've been to a few. I mean, like not a lot. But, so I'm curious to know
what sticks out about Berlin to you.
So I guess this is where I go into story time. So what stuck out to me about Berlin was me and a few friends, we did a Europe trip, and we went to Stockholm, we went to Germany, went to Spain, and we went to Denmark. And out of those four, Germany was my favorite because they know how to like party. Like they know, and it's like places like that feel like old New York. And I feel like, for example, like they will party for 72 hours straight.
Period.
And then go to work the next day and then call, like people.
Yeah.
So there's like a place called Berghain. I don't know if you got the chance to go.
Oh yeah, I have. Yes.
So like when you walk into Berghain is like, first of all, you have to fit the bill to get in.
Yeah, you're either getting in or you're going home.
Yeah.
You're going home.
People don't know.
Yeah.
what the protocol, what is the thing to get you in.
Yeah, it's vibes.
And it's vibes. And so me and a friend got in, and two of my other friends didn't get in. And I remember, like, it felt like being in a dream. And I remember it felt like, in a dream, like, random things happen. Like, I walk in, I see someone with an amputated arm. I walk in, I see people having sex. I walk in, I see people walking around naked, like, doing drugs.
Yeah.
And for me, like, I don't partake in those things. Right. So when I see other people do it, I'm like, people do this. Like, people do, So, and I remember one specific time when we were in the city, and there was like a poster of a Black woman in Afro. I was like, oh my God, we're gonna meet Black German people. Like, I'm so excited. So, like, all throughout the city, there was this Afro woman. It was like, come to this party. And I remember when we get online, like, the line is just only white people. And when we get to the door, because I'm just me, I have Virgo on my chart, so but so I remember when we get to the door, he's asking for money. I'm like, we're not paying to get in. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm Black. And you have a Black woman on your poster. You're letting me and my friends in for free.
Right.
And he's like, come on, like, it's going to be a really good time. The music is going to be really good. And I'm like, well, I was looking at my friends, and then we were looking at each other, and he was like, just come in.
Right, yeah.
And so it's just like, come on, like, you're making money off of my people, So we went in. It was such a good time. The music was really good. And so there was just, like, moments like that when me and my friends were just out all night and getting in at, like, 4, like, 9 a.m. in the morning. And it was just, like, people were nice. It was... During that time, it was affordable to be in a city like that. And that was in 2017.
Right.
So, but what was your experience in Germany?
My experience in Germany, my first experience in Germany was just, I got a chance to just see a completely different side of Berlin. And in Germany in general, like going to like Sweden and Gothenburg and so many different, it's like so many little small towns and like so many little places, but
Cologne?
just Cologne, Cologne, and how hippie Cologne really is, and people don't really know. It's like, oh my God, I was performing in like a backyard garden, like it, like let me say, like this, I was a dancer that booked gigs, and whatever we booked to gigs, I will be doing it in no matter what country it is. Like if I can perform as a performer, I'll be doing it, So just taking on those it opened up a lot of different experiences. But in Berlin, I really loved that it was like this gray area that I felt like people existed in. And like I was seeing like, my first experience in Berlin, I arrived, we got into our apartment, everybody was a little moody, and I was like, I'm going to go for a walk. Like, I'm just going to go for a walk. And they hated me for that because no matter what country you're going, I had no problem being like, I'm going to go for a walk. Like, I'll be right back.
We're the same. Because I went to Germany twice, too. The first time, it was like I was with people who weren't vibing. And the second time, it was so vibey. So, like, I can relate to that.
Yeah, and you got to, like, tap into your own energy, or, like, that would be the energy of the trip. And I did a walk. I was like walking down, and I stopped by this pizza store, and it was a queer couple in I didn't know he was queer yet. He was in there, and I asked about the pizza, and I didn't know the money yet too. And he was like, "Oh, where are you coming from?" I'm like, "Oh, the U.S." And grab a conversation, and he literally was just like, "You want to make one?" And I'm like, "Make what?" He's like, "A pizza," and I was like, "Oh, yeah." He's like, "Come." Literally came, let me come behind. And he was like showing me like how to do the pizza and stuff like that too. Then made the pizza, and then like his partner came out that they were talking, and I realized, I was like, oh, that's your partner. Like it was giving. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. I was like, and then he was like, this is yours, and literally gave me like a free pizza. Obviously, one that I made, my hands was all over it, so like that too. Like, and we were like chatting, talking. Obviously, I was like, eating pizza that I got from there, but then I brought one home. And I was like, wow, that was like my first experience. Like that was the most random experience in Berlin. And then from there, I just kind of was just like, oh, I'm always going to search for this energy. Like, it's like, I'm brand new to this. That man didn't know me from anywhere. He literally just taught me a new skill. Like I came home with pizza. Like I'm going to keep this energy going. And Berlin has always been that space for me. Like this comfort in receiving. Like people have always just received me well there. Also just, seeing the clubs, performing in different spaces, and seeing other brown and black folks there. Um, it gave me a whole nother like curiosity of us, like where I'm like, oh, I want to document us. Like, I want to talk to Black German folks. Like, I want to see like what it's like being a Muslim in or Turkey, a Turkish person in Berlin. Like, what's your journey? Like, it just kept coming up. It kept I to this day I have so much footage from that first trip in Berlin. Um, that I'm to this. I'm like, when I have a documentary, it's gonna be crazy.
I
I'm
mean,
like,
you're so in the world of documentary.
yeah, I love it. I love it. Like, I honestly love it. I feel like that's what I'm built out of. I want to use documentary to be able to that documentary platform to connect to other things, whether it's into fashion, whether it's into, you know, interviewing, telling different stories. Like, I know that's my nuance to it. Like, I'm always in discovery of a person. Like, I think like us as brown and black people, we are such nuanced people, and like I always say, like, I love capturing that moment that's in between like a cry and a laugh, because you don't really know what it is, and like it's up for like the person to decide what that is too. I love like that us as people of color, like, we can say the most meanest thing, but like mean the greatest thing about it, like vice versa. I love that we are so present in whatever we participate in. You know, like when we touch anything, like we colorful it, we bring so much color to it, and we define it. If like we define things even more than what it is when we're a part of it, and maybe that's a superpower, but it's there.
It's like the extra seasoning.
Yeah, it's the extra seasoning, and you know what I mean. Like, and we have to lean into that. But we do have a gray area, and that gray area, I think sometimes we need to explore, because like we're not all, what's the word, monolithic.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You threw me off for a second.
Exactly. Like, we are, and that gray area is so beautiful. Like, even when it comes to sexuality, like even when it comes to religion and politics, like touring and being in Europe has taught me that. You know, I mean, I've seen it in other countries as well too, where it's the majority of us, but seeing us in other spaces like that I didn't wouldn't expect, gave me that gray area that I work in now, where I'm like, oh, it's a lot of nuances here. Like, let's capture them. Let's see where it's at. Like, oh, we're in the church. Where's the trans girl? Like,
right.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, like, we're out here.
Before we continue with our conversation, here's a clip from the film Peace.
You what? Always, into the day I die.
You mentioned that beautiful moment you had in Germany.
Yeah.
And in New York City, there are a lot of beautiful moments that happen like that too. But I feel like, I don't know if bravado is the word, but I feel like there's this energy where people feel like they're often too cool for school here. Where do you think that stems from? Like, or do you even think that's a thing here?
I think it was a thing here. I think, you know, respectfully, a lot of people, you know, it's weird that two born and raised people in New York really are like here, you know what I mean? So a lot of people do come to New York with the idea of like, I need to come to New York ready. I come to New York with this rebranding of self, or in a space of like, you know, you can't see me sweat. You know what I mean? Like, this is who I'm presenting. This is who I am. And I don't really know how to explain that, because
I get it.
I have no problem people seeing me sweat. It's like,
same.
Like,
like,
what?
you're seeing the process.
Yeah,
you're
like,
seeing it beautifully.
Yeah, like, and I'm doing it. Like,
you're living it.
Yeah, literally, 100%. Like, you don't have to like reference back to anybody else. You saw me, you saw the sweat, and now I'm fab on it. Like, at least in the idea of it, you know what I mean? But now people are stuck. Some people are stuck in a space of like not seeing them sweat. So maybe that's where that kind of comes from. You know, I love when people show that part of them. Like vulnerability is a big part of success.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, not for everyone probably, but people want to see that. People want to know, like, how did this person like build this tower?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how did this person create this beautiful painting? You know what I mean? Like, if you're not showing them the beginning of the process, at least show them like a stroke of the brush of like how your hand possibly moved while creating it. Like, you want a little bit of nuance of how something so great exists.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the problem now, I think, like the sweating, people don't want to see people sweat anymore. Like, some people don't want to let them see them sweat.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that just changes the artistry and the creativity in New York, or how willing people are to like create together or collaborate.
Mm-hmm.
It changes, but we still have some really great people that slip through and like get it,
Mm-hmm.
like who are willing. And we have some amazing people that move to New York and who are like, I want to be a part. Like, I was meant to be born here. Like, this is who I am. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah.
I mean, for me, like one thing that I would say that I'm at a place at is that like I don't want to ever like complain about the work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because like for me, like I'm a self-starter. Like I don't really have that much support in terms of like, you know, of building up a project. And but I feel like for me, like, I don't know. I mean, so I get what you're saying, and I'm very much like I show people the process. Like
Mm-hmm.
this podcast, the show, is a very honest show. Like
Mm-hmm.
from the sounds of the background to like the cat coming on our chairs. Like these are like I look at these moments and be like, we're gonna look back at that moment 30 years from now and be like, oh my God, we had that moment
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
But I'm also at a place where like I don't know if people are really interested in hearing about like the hardship of like, oh yeah, I can't get like this person to help support or whatever. Like I don't know if that information needs to be shared anymore, because there was a point where I would look at old conversations I had online and I would be like, oh my God, I'm doing this and that, and I just feel like I don't know if people really care. So
I think they care.
like it's just like, I mean, just for example, like, oh, like, I'm doing this all by myself and like I'm having a hard time and I'm figuring it out. And I'm just like, but that's art life.
Mm-hmm.
You're like grinding and making
Mm-hmm.
it happen, and then it blossoms and then everybody wants to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
They always knew it.
right. And so I'm just like,
I always knew it.
do we need to like be like, oh yeah, like I don't have sponsors, I don't have this, and I'm doing it. It's just like, just do it.
Yeah.
And then like you'll have that moment where you said, I did this,
Mm-hmm.
I made it happen,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm gonna continue to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree with you on that too. I feel like you do have to just do it. I do think you have to also remember how accessible things can be for you. Like, you know, it's not hard to ask for help, and
of course.
sometimes, not all help is great help,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes you have to put it out there so you can receive it. And if you don't ask for it, you don't get any no's.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, if you and then only yeses you get are the ones that you're telling yourself sometimes. Which is great if you want to do it 100% independently. But a big part of that is you taking the chance of being like, hey, I need to learn how to get sponsors. How do I do that? Who do I speak to? I see that this person sponsored you. How do I at least learn how to write a note? Right now, I'm working on how to get grants. Like, I really want to venture into that space too. So you know what I'm doing? I'm simply asking people, hey, what's up? Like, what is that grant? What's this called? Hey, can I take you to lunch or something like that? Oh, what's your consulting price? Like, I just want to sit down with you for like an hour or so and show you what I've done or things that I'm looking at, because like I'd rather just know that I've tried on my own,
Right.
and know that something's available to me, versus it just coming to me and then it's just out of the blue. I have no type of like information on it. I'm just accepting what's coming to me. I'm like, no, like, let me do the work, and if it's mine, it's mine. And I did it for myself, but at least I know it's out there. If someone hears about it, at least, it's coming my way, you know. I don't I think you have to really like you said, do the work. You have to like no matter what, like make it happen.
Right.
Like honestly, like make it happen. Even if it's not the best at that moment, like make it happen.
I
Like
agree.
let it be a season 1 to the situation. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like
Yeah.
season 1 never looks as good as season 2. Like, you know what I mean?
It's like, or it's just a matter of seeing the growth.
Yeah,
You know, like in terms of like the way how a person's hair grow, to like, you know, the way how our skin, you know, becomes more vibrant, or like our style. Like it's just the evolution. It's like a child growing up. You know, and I look at there's none of my artwork where I'm like, damn, I don't like that. Like I look at that and I'm like, I love that because it lets people know where I started. You know, but you know, with you know, you traveling to Germany and all these places in the world, you know, you was entering the dancing world and all this other stuff, and the first time we reunited after all of that was at Michael Rice's film screening. Like he had a private screening.
Yes.
And I don't know if you do remember that night.
I do.
And I remember like his mom was like serving food, Sade was playing, like it was like a real moment. I was like, why is this nigga charging people $20 to come to his movie? But like it was worth it.
Yeah.
And like I'm gonna always support. And he, you know, he invited me, and so a bunch of us came.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing it. I was like, oh my god, there's that kid I went to high school with. And I was just, and then you spoke to me most of the time. Like I don't know, I feel like people, once again, is that like I'm too cool for school. And like that was the first time we ever really had an interaction, was that I can recall, was at his screening. And then, you know, he since then has like evolved. Wait, how did you and him know each other?
Michael Rice is another person that I feel like I have a memory of him, and then from there I'm like, where did we start? Like how did I meet you? Like I don't know how I met Michael Rice. I do know my first memory of Michael Rice was helping him set up for school when he had just become a teacher.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like, and he was like setting up for school, and we were like, hey, I'll come and help you like set up your classes and stuff like that too. And we've just always been close since then. He's always been someone who's checked in with me. Like he's always checked in, like, hey Yinka, like what's up?
Yeah.
And when someone knows you by your whole name, like Hola Yinka, like you're like, oh, whew, you really know me. Like and he's one of those people, you know.
He's one of those people for me too.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, I've known you forever. He's always been super supportive, and I've and that one person that I can call no matter what time of the day, no matter what time of the hour, and we will have a conversation for 4 hours on the phone and be like, all right, I'll talk to you in 3 weeks.
Like, that's literally me and him. I feel like you're telling me my story, like these moments that you have in your life.
Yeah, he's family. He's family to us. I think he represents that person that he represents that family friendship, right?
Absolutely.
Who's no matter what always going to be like present in your life through and through, and that's how I look at him as in general. And then on top of the cherry on top of it is that he's a creative, you know.
Rice Creative.
Rice Creatives, right? An amazing choreographer and director, and he gave me a lot of experiences. He gave me a lot of the opportunity to explore my journalism and doing documentaries and stuff like that too. When he released Party Boy, a few of my photos was in there, and I was like, oh yes, this is the start. Like this is the start, and I felt it, and that made me go like, oh, okay, somebody wants what I'm doing outside of social media, outside of like you know, relevant work of like, you know, so like Afropunk, and artists is needing things to post and things like that too. Because I wasn't as creative yet with my photography. I knew I just wanted to document. I was documenting every single thing possible. Like I was, like you cannot. If you were sleeping, I was like recording it, you know. And Andy Warhol, like just trying to mimic a lot of what is our reference. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, I'm gonna recreate Tumblr. Like I'm like, I'm gonna be the references on Tumblr. Like all
That
these
was
references.
me.
Yeah, literally. Like
Wow.
it's us. Like I think that
Yeah.
is truly our creativity. Like we
Yeah.
come from a generation of Tumblr of looking at all these iconic references,
Mm-hmm.
Grace Jones, and all these things that was just on scrollable and stuff like that. And I'm like, I want to replace these. Like, I want my work to be references for like another artist. And a big part, I was like, let's document everything, let's film everything, let's shoot
Mm-hmm.
let's put it out there,
Mm-hmm.
whether I'm in it or not.
Mm-hmm. I feel
I
like
was
it's
there.
history making
It's
because
history.
people don't realize that we study American history, we study Black history, we study
Hmm.
all these different sorts of history, but what about the history of our family, about our
Yeah,
communities,
real.
of being Black and queer, being from Harlem, like
Yeah,
being Nigerian, being Muslim, like
yeah.
in the nuances of that. And so when you say that, I'm just like, so but then when was that point when you started to pick up a camera then and and
Um,
start documenting after like exploring like dance work?
um, well, I started to explore. I've always just had some form of a camera in my hand,
Mm-hmm.
really, whether it was like the disposable ones, like I would just be taking hella photos, especially in school. Like high school, I really was going crazy. I remember one time Ivan told me like, "Hey, I took off some of the old videos on YouTube. Just like I think it's best to like like we're older here, those don't
I
need to be
gotta look
up."
these up.
I was like, "No, they're down." Ivan, like I love him to death. Like he did that a few years ago. Like I think it's time for this video to come down. Like,
Oh my
but
god.
I mean, honestly, now I feel like I'm confident in the journey that like I would love to have like those videos back up. Like we need to see us in high school in freakum dress, like
Mm-hmm.
just going off, just a random conversations. But I think when I acknowledge it as a job and really was accepting it as like a job was Afropunk. I think
Mm-hmm.
Afropunk really looked at me and was like, "Oh, like let's work." You know what I mean?
Mm.
And it was like I was getting jobs before in a mix of dancing and then shooting stuff slow like on the side, and people being like, "Oh, you shoot photos? Let's do this," and it was cute. Um, but Afropunk really was like, "Oh, like I can still tour and see the world and make money and still dance for artists. Let's make it work." So with that, I started doing Afropunk New York festival, and I also still was dancing. So literally,
Wow.
I would get off stage, perform, start doing social media for them, taking photos, uploading it back, get ready for the second set, jump back on. Like I really was living two lives at the same time. And
Wow.
then that led to London and Paris with them, and it really gave me that like confidence to 100% do it. I
Mm.
was doing it full time, but I was able to get in with the right people and document the right stuff. And Jocelyn and Matthew, they really kept me by their side, like in the sense of being like, "Hey, we're in the back room with Grace Jones. Come here," like in London, and I'm like
Wow.
in the back room, like they like capture whatever you can capture. Like she's behind me, like they really gave me that confidence to be like, "Oh, I'm getting in the room, honey. Like I'm getting in the room. I'm gonna
Wow.
capture this type of thing to where I use now. Where I'm, my boyfriend always laughs about it. He's like, you made a comment like, "Oh, I never waited online," and I'm like, yeah, me neither. And I still to this day have
Yeah.
that. I still to this day have that energy where I'm like, oh, like let's just we're gonna no, we're just gonna go right in. Like
Right.
we're just gonna go right in. Like, they're
Yeah.
like, are you on the list? I'm like, I didn't know it was a list. Like, I didn't know it was a list. I'm Yinka. Like,
Yeah.
they're like, oh,
Right.
what are you here for? I'm like, I'm a photographer. They're like, yeah, okay,
That was my
cool,
gateway too. I did the same
right.
thing. Wow.
Why not?
Right.
Like at the end of the day, like I'm like, I know why I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
I know my presence is felt. I'm
Mm-hmm.
confident in it. It has nothing to do with ego. It has nothing to do, but it has everything to do. Like I want to show up as big as the people that I honor, and like I like dream to like have careers anywhere near,
Mm-hmm.
or for people to tap into. It's like I love Fela Kuti. I love these like I love very specific people, and I always go like I need to embody the this energy to make sure that like I'm not selling myself short of anything. Like, and it's like off the bat, like the people that I love that are my big references to how I want to show up in the world. It's like Fela Kuti, um, Gordon Parks. Um, I would say the grace of my sister. Like she has such beautiful grace, and I don't know. She walks. She's a person like you feel her in the room. Like she comes in, and you know, like you have that favorite cousin that comes in. Like my sister's always made me feel that like that way. Like it's like oh she's coming, cool. Like you know what I mean. Like I will be excited to see what my sister will be wearing. Like because
what is her sign?
She's a Scorpio.
Okay, cool.
She's in it. She's in it to win it. Like and I'm like. I know how to make people feel that energy, and I want to learn. Like that was my thing. I'm like, I want to learn how to make people feel that energy. I want to be that, and I want to be it authentically. Like I want to be so not into myself, but so well aware of myself that I know that I'm in that room. I know what I'm creating. I can believe in it, and I'm feeling the presence of it, and people are feeling that. And I've always added those three people as like my like recharger. Like, okay, Fela Kuti. Great, Gordon Parks, my sister Africa, maybe a few other people, but those three right now are the ones that I immediately like can check in with. I'm always like, yes.
I love Fela Kuti.
Yeah,
he's one of my
first Black president.
Was he really?
No, I mean no, he's not really, but you know. Imagine, right? Like right. History.
I mean, he advocated really hard for the people in Nigeria through music.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, he was that for a lot of people in Nigeria, specifically through music.
Mm-hmm. You know? Did anyone in your family knew him, like personally?
No, not that I know of.
My father mentions that he met him and
my gosh.
smoked pot with him or something like that. I don't know how that happened, but that's what he told me. I don't know how true that is.
It could be.
Like, I mean, you know, when the West Africans link up.
Okay.
But like he's like I've written a whole like short film someday it'll get made based off of like a song he's made, Gentleman.
Yes.
One of my favorite songs, like of all time. Yeah, I love that. Wait, but you also got the chance to meet Grace Jones. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I have such great memories of like not great memories. I have like 2 memories of Grace Jones. But yeah, that was like that's what I knew, and I was like, okay, let's get these legends. Like let's capture this. Like let's do this. Like I met Grace Jones in London, and I was just doing BTS footage for Afropunk and like his social media, and we were in a room, and I just remember one member. She was getting ready in the green room, and this guy was like shucking oysters for her, like just like one at a time, and she's just like casually talking, and he's just like handing her oysters. She's like, and just like putting it away, and like in the midst of conversation, and I'm just like, this woman is so fat. Like this woman is just, she's been here. You know what I mean? Like
that energy icon.
Yeah, that energy. Like I'm in it. Like everything's wrapped up into his time to get on the stage. Like this glasses on. I'm like. Just eating oysters, and I'm looking at her like, wow, this is a moment. Like I'm literally sitting in London, I'm looking at her son, like this other guy's just shucking oysters, and I'm like just capturing video of you. Like what's going on? Like this is a memory, but it was something that I really like cherish, just in general, because I just know that's like my memory where I'm like. Yeah.
And not many people like get to have those experiences that you've had, which is amazing.
Yeah. And I believe she even said like I don't remember the full conversation now because it's been so long, but like she was like she asked my name, and I was like, oh, Yinka. She's like, Yinka what? And I'm like, oh, Yinka Parris. And she was like, that's not an African last name. And I'm like oh my gosh. I'm like, it's not. But I'm like, oh, you know, it's Yinka Ajibola. Or like, you have to give it the whole thing. She's like, oh, okay, I know a Yinka. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, okay. Like,
I didn't know that. I didn't know you. So Paris is just like.
Yinka's my legal. Yinka Parris is my last name, my real last name too.
Uh-huh.
But it's much longer. It's Ajibola Paris. It's
Uh-huh.
hyphenated.
Uh-huh.
But a lot of people, it never realize. A lot of people think that Paris isn't my last name, or Yinka Paris is like a cosplay.
I mean, Aman is short for Amanqua.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, and I actually got that from Sophia because she abbreviated her last name. And then I was like, I'm going to step away from my father.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to name myself Aman.
Mm-hmm.
And like I've ran with it ever since.
I know. We have to do a little bit because my father is also, I'm a junior on top of having the hyphenated. And I was just like, oh, I need to when we Google each other, I don't want him gagging a little bit too, because I'm like, you know, I've done some videos, like some, Cakes the Killer, and like, I'm proud of all the artwork I put out there too, but I wanted to stand for me, what I mean? I wanted to stand for me 100%, and making sure that Yinka Parris had that clear thing from Ola Yinka, Ajibola, and all my other 7 other names, and then my names that I'm lucky to have, holds its own space in general too. So
it was, and that is so funny that we speak specifically about your name, because that was when we finally reconnected, and then we stayed connected. I remember Michael brought me on to work as his producer. And
it's amazing.
Yeah, because he has another project that, we can't really say much about, which is really iconic. And that man freaking knows how to invoke emotion. Like, literally,
oh my gosh,
he's invoked so much emotion over me in these last few years. I'm like, Jesus. But I remember he brought me on as a producer to work on his film. And I remember your name was on the list, and it was like Ola Yinka. And I'm like,
what's that?
And then we finally speak on the phone. I'm actually doing logistical work. I was staying in Colombia. You guys are going to, I believe, you was going to California or Miami. No, you didn't do Miami, so you went to California.
San Francisco?
Because remember you guys shot
it was California.
Yeah. And so I was like doing a little stuff for that. Then you guys were going to Atlanta. I was doing stuff for that. And I remember the first time we spoke on the phone, I was rearranging your flight.
Yeah.
Because you were staying an extra day. And that was when we
I'm like, hello?
I'm like, that was me too. I was like, do you know who you? Do you know?
It was like,
were you like that too?
I was curious. I'm like, is this? I was looking at the name.
Really?
Like, I'm like, I know this person. I'm like, do I just go on a deep end and just start doing research? But then I'm like, no, I know this person. And that's when we spoke on the phone. I'm like, do we went to school together, right?
I specifically remember I was coming from eating. I was in Colombia. I was staying in Colombia. And I was on the phone with you. And I was like, does he? Because this is what I'm talking about when it comes to people in New York. They will literally be like, I don't remember you. Oh, did we? I'm like, how do you not remember this moment? Like,
I live next door.
Right. Like, literally, like, I have countless memories of meeting people, and they'll be like going into deep ass conversations.
Yeah.
So when I was on the phone with you, I was like, I don't know if he's like, oh, I don't remember him or whatever. And then like we reconnected. Yeah. And then what really brought us close is that retreat.
Yeah.
And
thank God.
Yeah, that was a moment.
Yeah, it was a beautiful experience. I'm really thankful for that experience, just because like I think, there's always, I will always be familiar with you. Like, even if that didn't happen, I will still see you and be like, I will hope, that I will see you and be like, let's connect. What's up? What's going on? But that retreat really, like, I'm like hella thankful for, because I was like, oh my gosh, like I was able to meet amazing people to this day that we still all connect and talk with. But us two, I felt like our roots were so rooted. Again, it was nice to finally like do this, and for us to really be on the same page, especially like in our adulthood. I'm like, we've never had the chance to be around each other in our adulthood. Like we've had a hell of a being around each other and being well aware of each other, but not ever really connecting. And then we connected on something that was so strong, meaningful, and on top of it was like we spent some time together. Like we spent a long period of time together, and deep. Like it was like we can't talk about everything because
because the world's gonna see it through a documentary.
Yeah, but we really built a bond, and I think even with that, it was how we spoke to each other. What stuck out to me mostly was that we were speaking very bold and very honest and very like transparent. We weren't like playing it cute, like not even like cute, like we were speaking crazy with each other, like but like we were just like, yeah, what's this, look like that. We spoke about everything under the sun.
We did
everything under the sun.
You asked. It's so interesting because I don't know any other way to be, and I believe that's the same way with you too.
Yeah.
And I remember we were just going back and forth with so many things, and it was because I was driving, and you was like, "I'm gonna go in the car with him."
Yeah.
And so we were in the car together, and like it was a really magical moment. I'm so glad to have you in my life.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah. I'm so truly.
No, yeah.
But and one thing that we did talk about in that car was about the black dollar. And I remember we were talking about that, and I'm really curious of what that looks like for you.
Yeah.
Because you said that you've been wanting to maintain that, and I see that through your work and the people that you surround yourself around. So how can you explain what the black dollar is and how it is effective in your life?
Continue being up to date with all things peace by following the links attached to this episode. Thank you for tuning in. Now let's wrap up the show.
Yeah, so like that's one of my greatest achievements. I will say, like I've always been like, yeah, we can make money, like, but I grew up watching my black community thrive through mom and pop shops, through having small little businesses and a community functioning. You know what I mean? And I also grew up very close to the Jewish community as well too. I've also grown up very close to like the Latin community, and both of us, you grew up in the Bronx, like that too. Also, my father, in the career that my father's in, he works very close within the Jewish community. So I've always just had an observing space of watching communities work and that dollar staying there, you know what I mean, and functioning, and you working for your uncle, your aunt, and it was like that too. And I feel like no matter what, that shouldn't have gotten lost. And something about the industry, we assume that gets lost in it. I'm like, no, it doesn't have to get lost. Like you can 100% still be within your community and expanding it and making a black dollar. And I wanted to challenge myself, knowingly, being like, hey, like I make a black dollar and I like return it. You know what I mean? And a big part of that was because I was dancing for black artists. A big part of it was because I was working for Afropunk, making a black dollar. You know what I mean? Like the creatives that were paying me were black. You know what I mean? The stories that I was capturing were black. The performances I was capturing were black. And I was like, what does that really mean? Like, how do I expand on this? Like, when the person becomes my client, how do I like keep that dollar here, So later on in life, I took the chance to like not work for anyone else and really like lean on my photography and videography and like sort out having black clients. It was, and which brought, Native Son into my space, which brought 4 West into my space, which brought Lambda into my space, which kept Afropunk into my space. Like it brought a lot of different, Michael Rice into my space, you know what I mean? And it allowed me to just expand on that, and all that work kind of carried on to the next. And I remember it was like 3 years ago, and I was like, oh, every single one of my clients is black.
Wow.
And I was just like, and at that time I had like a roster of like maybe 12, 15 people, and I'm like, every last one is black. Like black and brown, like us in our
Right.
community. And I'm like, and I'm thriving off of it. Like I'm fully functioning. I have savings. Like I have savings. Like
Yeah,
whoa.
and
Like
it's functional because some people will argue that like, oh, like black people are like this and like that. And
yeah,
of course, there are some people like that, but there are also people who really value collaboration and
yeah,
like who value the people they work with.
yeah. And also, it doesn't matter. Either you can't escape that. Like
Mm-hmm.
those little negative things that we all know that it says like, oh, when you work for your own, you can't either you're gonna go through it with your own, or you're gonna go through it with someone that just does not look like you at all.
Right.
And it hasn't worked out that way for me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I can feel the nuances. I can see like certain things, understand things a little bit better. You
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it just gave me a stronger backbone when I wasn't dealing with people in my own community. It's like honey, like I'm telling these black stories over here. I'm telling these brown stories over here. I'm touring the world and seeing the world. I'm able to pay my rent off of a black dollar. You think I'm going to allow you to treat me any type of way? You think I'm going to allow you to speak to me any type of way? You think I'm going to allow you to pay me less? Absolutely not. Like I'm a black man. You know what I mean? I'm a queer person as well too. Like there's a lot of not on my watch. Like
I love
literally,
that.
like
I love
you know
that.
what I mean. That you have to make sure that it doesn't get by because a lot of people like to use your nuances as like, oh, like, oh, like, or provide an opportunity. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, no, I did the work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not an opportunity. You are hiring me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know why I'm in the room. Let's treat it like that. And
Mm.
sometimes that's not always respected, or sometimes that's looked at with ego. Sometimes that's looked at, like simmer down type of thing. But I'm like, no, because you would take it from anybody else, and I
Mm.
give nothing but grace and kindness. Like I lead with kindness, and because kindness is free. Like I think
Mm.
kindness is free. I
Mm-hmm.
think being nice is free.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but kindness, I think either you got it or you don't. Like, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you can't. And it takes nothing to give that to people.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, you got that. Like, you know what I mean? Now, can I do the job?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and a big part of that, and what I've always had my best luck in, is working with my community. And my
Mm.
community is not just the LGBT, community. Like, it's not just queer folk. It's us. Like, it's
Yeah.
it's black and brown people. It's it's the nuances of where we like end up and where we're gonna go. And Michael was a big part of that, of like seeing that and being like, oh, like this man that really is seeing my work, like, and he's paying me for it. Like, okay, like this
Yeah.
is my lineup. This is like where I need to like make sure people respect me on and do that. And then, amazing opportunities like we're working with Native Son and really um speaking to a phenomenal person like Email Wilbekin, and like him sharing those a wide range of uh, views with
Mm-hmm.
me,
Mm-hmm.
and Native Son was a a platform really that gave me access to brown and black men that are out there,
Mm.
queer world that are out there, men that are like me, stories that I want to tell. I became so familiar with people that like eventually my event photography really became a way for me to um, truly get to know them,
Yep.
truly get to know them too, because I know a lot of people that may not know me in a way. I don't know how to explain that.
I
Like,
get where you're coming from. It's
yeah,
like you're familiar with this space,
yeah,
and sometimes, I mean, like, there's great privilege in people not knowing you,
yeah,
and then there's privilege of people knowing you as well.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
it's like, I know
yeah.
how you move. Yeah.
Literally.
But you know what, though, is interesting because I'm familiar with Native Son. I know about Emil. And it's, I always think back to, because there was Emil
hmm
and there was Memso. I don't know if you know Memso. He was like the styling director at Vibe. And Vibe was being led by a bunch of black gays.
Yes.
And people don't even like,
ding. Like,
it's like you want to talk about like we've always been there.
Yeah.
We've always been around.
Yeah.
We've been influenced. We've been influencing the culture in so many different
Yeah.
ways, and people like to pretend that we're not there, and it's
Yeah.
just so crazy.
But you know,
Once again, talking to what you were just saying, like you might not know everyone in the room.
Mhm.
People might not,
Mhm.
So,
but you know, it's our job now because a lot of people don't realize too. Like, it's the first time in history that we have, I think the word is like intergenerational, right? I think that's the word.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Hey.
Let's go with it. And
Yeah.
now we're leading it.
Elders, queer Black
Yes.
elders that exist, that
Yeah.
are alive. You know, like sadly, the elders our elders passed. A lot of them passed. You know what I mean? And then also there was an AIDS pandemic,
Right.
and epidemic. Is that the word?
Yeah.
It was it all. Like, you know what I mean? There was a lot. There was a lot of, we're able to live so openly that was not a privilege to our elders now, right? And we have so many now and we're living in such an open time that it's our journey to like build that connection and to like hear their stories and them hear our stories, like, because we're really like in a first of history. Like, we can talk to 70-year-olds, 70-year-olds, 80-year-olds, 60-year-olds that have lived a different queer time in our lives. And like, it's important to not only document their stories, it's important to have like a relationship with them, whether it's good or bad. It's important to like adapt a chosen family that is of elders, because like we're not the starting point. Like, we're not the starting point. I think we are like the gear switch. I think we really put the pedal to the metal, and we provided more access, that we're allowing the elder generation to live as freer, not as freer, but like as free as they
probably wouldn't have when they were younger.
They're living as free as they choose to now because of us, for sure. Like, because we just have a non-tolerant type of space.
We keep getting more non-tolerant.
Yeah, we're like,
Gen
no.
Z, forget about it.
Oh my God, Gen Z, please.
They're like, excuse me?
You said what? You're making me feel what type
like,
of way,
what are you
honey?
doing? Where are you going?
Yeah, and that's a power. Like, that's a power to have. Especially when you look like us.
Absolutely.
To be well aware of that and be like, oh, my power is still relevant here. I'm still doing what I got to do for myself. Also, I know who has existed before me, who's been doing this before me. And like, I mean, Mike was not that older than us at all, but he's always been someone that I've watched who has gracefully lived his life and been present.
Oh yeah.
Emil is someone that I have the utmost respect for him, because his work ethic is like no other. Another Virgo. But even before working for him, I was well aware of who he was, and he became more well aware of me through Afropunk. And it's my work being around and me keeping my head down and doing the work. And when someone like that comes to you and sees that, you're like, okay, it's happening. And he instilled so much knowledge in me, whether he knows it or not. Like, he's instilled so much knowledge in me to like push on and continue to have these type of relationships with people. I have so many good relationships with older folks now that I'm like, that I don't think I would have had maybe 5-6 years ago, just because of that platform too. Just being able to communicate, becoming more knowledgeable, being like, oh, you did what and what time and when? Oh, okay, cool. I'm going to show up for this. This is going on. And also made them more well aware of me. And I think that's something we all have to like work on. Like, we all have to be present with that, because we are in unique times. Like, the love that we can share amongst each other as a family, as having elders, is beautiful. Like, we have to take advantage of it. Like, I can't stress that any more, that like we have to take advantage of like telling their stories orally, having that oral history of things. Everything can't be written down, everything can't be recorded in a picture, but like that moment, spending time real relationships will carry on. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
We need an uncle. We need an aunt.
You know what? I do have an uncle.
Mhm.
My best friend's uncle, who's like an uncle to me, and they're like in their 70s. When you look at them, you will not, and they're a black gay couple.
Yes.
And I don't know if you are used to seeing that, but
Mhm.
that like I like seeing them, and like they live in a nice, like lovely condo on Fifth Avenue,
Mm-hmm.
and they're black gay men.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, wow, you guys are so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Examples.
You know?
Yeah.
But I'm gonna switch gears because I
Okay,
could
yeah.
talk to you all
I
day.
know.
I got a few more questions because I know you got things to do. You a popular man.
No.
I wanted to know because another thing we talked about in that car about was Frolic Weekend.
Mm-hmm. What
What is that about? Can you? Because you was like, you gotta come to Frolic.
Oh yeah, Frolic is just another amazing space where brown and black people can frolic as free as possible
Mhm.
while being celebrated for a nice strong week, right?
Mhm.
It's a collective from Boston
Okay.
that puts together a week of like festivities of parties and panels together in P Town, which I think is Provincetown in
Yeah.
Boston. Um, so I was asked to do that last year, do their photography, which was an amazing experience because once again I was around another um, group of black and brown people from Boston and Detroit and a bunch of other spaces beyond New York, right?
Mhm.
And we're all in Boston. We're all like in on this little island, all enjoying each other and like on these amazing panels of talking about everything that we need to know in our community for sure.
Mhm.
And like people that look just like us telling us, and people that don't look like us telling us what we need to know, which is important.
Mhm.
And Frolic provides all of that too. Like y'all have an absolutely amazing time. My experience there was phenomenal because I didn't know what to expect.
Mhm.
I definitely went there being like, oh, this is going to be a key, not even a key, but like I was like, oh, child, let me just keep it cute, like and
Mhm.
do the job. And the minute I got there, I was embraced by the most amazing people that was there. The collective that puts it together. They're all individually their own people, and
Mhm.
they are like really cool. I
Mm.
really enjoyed that experience with
When
them
does it
too.
usually happen?
It usually happens around June. It's usually around
Okay.
top of June until like around like June
And did
19th.
you go this year?
I didn't go this year.
Okay.
I was booked.
I mean, yeah, you was
I
talking
was trying
about.
to be booked like no,
Yeah.
but yeah, I didn't go this year. Maybe next year.
Yeah.
Next year. I wanted to have an art show with them too, but that didn't quite work out just because it just timing,
Mhm.
the timing and stuff. But hopefully next year I'll have one.
Mhm.
Hopefully you'll be in it. Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here. I'm always like here. I'm like, Yinka, let's do something.
I know.
And I will never forget you was like, oh, I really want to extend our brotherhood, and I was
Yeah.
like, let's do it.
Yeah.
So, but I do have two more questions.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know, because we did lightly talk about this, and you were just saying about doing art shows. What does expansion look like for you? Or what are some things you have in the works?
Both. I think expansion for me looks like me really, you know, as I love like all that I've been able to do and create, and I think that's so beautiful. And like it, and yeah, I can like reference back. We can Google it and look on Instagram and scroll and stuff like that too. But I haven't had the opportunity to really present it in my own vision. I think I have created enough now where I'm like, hey guys, like this is the work that I really want to show you. This is the like, a lot of it's based off my creativity that a lot of people know. But like in this last year I've been really focusing on um defining my own work, um creating and understanding the type of platform it can live on. Um Understand what it is to be even more professional than I am right now too. Like I would love to be signed this year to an agency and working with other creatives and expanding big stories and telling big stories. Like I have a goal of being like getting the cover of Time magazine. Like that's literally one of my like goals. Like
You heard it here.
yes, yes, yes.
When it happens, you heard it here. I'm just saying.
No, it is like
I only just say that there was someone who came, I spoke to, who's going to come in a later episode, actually this week. And he said, I just want to, because he owns a model agency.
Mhm.
And he said, I just want to see my models on billboards. And literally like the week later.
bam.
Yeah. And also too, there was, Laquan, he's done like,
I love Laquan.
he's amazing.
Yeah, Laquan is a one of a kind
Yeah.
type of person in and out of their creativity. Like they move with their own grace.
Mm-hmm.
Their work just expands to like a fantasy as well as like this like core of like you just know someone black is doing it. His work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
too?
absolutely.
And he represents a lot of self-love when it comes to capturing yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm like, wow, he trusts himself to capture himself in so many different images and like it's just like
Mm-hmm.
like I have such a profound like love for his creativity and him in general.
Yeah, I mean, like people like you and him I just adore, and like people like y'all just make me feel seen.
Yeah.
Because they're like just so many things I'm like, oh my god, like I'm going through this like alone, and then you'll be like, that was me.
Yeah.
Like, I was going to the club with my camera, like literally that
Yeah,
was
I know
me.
you.
And to hear you say that, I'm just like, geez.
Yeah.
Speaking back to expansion too, you were also mentioning a festival. I don't know if that's something you could talk about.
Oh yeah, that's literally where I'm about to have the meeting after. Oh yeah, so now along with expansion now too, I realized like that's just being in fashion, being in art, being in dance, and being a photographer, videographer, like those things have just allowed me to really know a lot of amazing creative people, and I had this amazing opportunity of working with this black pastry maker, and she opened up a bakery in I forgot what part of Brooklyn. Brooklyn. And
what's the name of it?
Jatem.
Okay.
Jatem pastries.
Cool.
And she's phenomenal. Like it's like one of the first black French pastry places in Brooklyn, and she went viral of a lot of her desserts and also just catering to the community. Like literally catering to the community. Accepting EBT in the spaces, which
I heard about her. Yeah. I did see that. I knew you was talking about her.
She's phenomenal. Yeah, like, she's phenomenal, and she's doing the work.
Oh wow.
Outside of that, we had an opportunity because I worked with her, and later on, she brought in the opportunity to work with creating a festival called FAM, and it's being sponsored by amazing people. And I was brought on to do the music direction for the festival, and I was like, okay, like that. It was like one of those things. You go like, okay, can I do this? And I'm like, I absolutely can do it.
Absolutely, you love Fela Kuti.
Yeah, literally, like
obviously good taste.
Yeah, and I'm like, but I don't want it. I don't want it to stray from like what I'm trying to do. I'm like, no, this is giving you an even bigger opportunity to document and really curate things. Like these are the little connecting dots that's going to fully wrap yourself like around what you're representing as a creative. So yeah, I'm working on that. It's a very new journey, and I'm excited. And hopefully, it will be happening in September.
Oh, wow.
So like, I'm out here searching, looking for beautiful artists to participate and be a part of it too. Also, it's challenging me in a new professional way, and it's allowing me to really see how far I can expand in general. So yeah, that's a a new thing that I'm working on right now
I mean, the
too.
sky's the limit for you.
It really is. It
Mm-hmm.
really is. But it's not easy though, you know? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
not easy. I think one thing, like we can speak with a lot of confidence, but like it is not easy. I think you have to really understand like your community around you is gonna really keep everything going, you know what I mean? Like and finding someone that gets it, you know, or when I asked you about our brotherhood and being like less tight, because seeing that I was so much better off after that trip and us all connecting and being like, wow, I have so many people I can tap into immediately
Mm-hmm.
in a brotherhood. And I want to take my own responsibility and be like, oh, like, I'm also keeping this relationship alive. Um, is a big part of that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so like even us having an interview right now, that's because we've kept our relationship alive.
Mm-hmm.
And I and I know we're not the most like we be in a sense like we're always working, we're
Right.
busy, we're always doing stuff too, but we've managed to really stay connected. Even I got
Akabulan.
alkabulan
Yeah.
brotherhood, like it's a few of us that we
Mm-hmm.
also check in with each other too, and like, I will do the work. I will continue and will do the work to like keep my part of that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
true, you know.
Yeah, I
So
remember like K1, like he and I, we will talk, and I'll literally be like, "How are you?" And
hmm
he's like, and he does the
right.
same thing to me. We like literally like go back and forth with like, "How are you?" I'm
hmm
like, you're literally asking me how am I right now,
right,
like right now,
right in this
like
moment.
it's like, but it's such a heartfelt
Yeah,
like, "How are you?
yeah,
How are you?"
yeah. How are you? How are I know it's towards the end of the interview, but like ultimately, like how are you?
How am I? I'm good right now.
Yeah,
I'm good that I'm sitting here with you. I feel like life is lifing, honestly,
yeah.
and I'm just doing the best that I
I
can.
feel you.
But you know, things like this get me really excited to be able to sit here and have these moments with people like you who've influenced my life. But New York City is not easy. But like to say that like life is easy is just that life is life.
Yeah.
Like life is up, life
Life
is
is going.
down. It makes you feel happy, it makes
Yeah,
you feel sad. And I feel like I'm really experiencing uh, the the elements of life at its
yeah,
finest right now.
yeah. I hear you.
So, right now I'm busy and I'm super excited to continue to be able to do more episodes like this. And I'm working towards more film stuff as well. So, but yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
I do have this question for you because this is like the roundabout question that I conclude with is, how are you producing peace?
How am I producing peace? I feel like I'm producing peace by being honest with myself.
Mm,
Um, in the morning about where I'm at right then and there. I'm accepting the things that I cannot change and things that will change over time. Um, and I'm realizing I am one person with a beautiful community and support system around me, and it's about how I show up to having that, um, and what can come out of that. Um, and sometimes when you like show up and like accept that those are the things that you have and you're lucky enough to have that, like that will produce its own peace in itself. um,
mm,
so I think that's how I am, if that was the question, right?
yeah.
How how peace is finding me.
And like how you're producing it.
How am I producing peace?
Mm-hmm.
And if not that way, I just think I have a lot of gratitude. Like I have a lot of gratitude. Like it's a lot of hardships out here, but like people have really given me a lot of grace in life, and people have really um given me a lot of love. And
Mm,
I whether wherever it's coming from, and at moments of like that too, I'm I've been hella thankful for it because it's like left a lasting expression. I have love in my life that's unconditional, and we I have a family in my life that is ride or die, if ands or buts, and I'm like, yo, I have things that like I don't have to ask about. I have things that is there for me, like the least that I can do is produce some type of peace, like some type of peace out of it. Yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
No questions asked. It's just we're here.
We're here. I think I have to remember, like, I can do but so much. You know what I mean? Like I can do. I came to this interview being like, I hope I can answer any of these questions. I hope I don't ramble. I hope I don't. And I was like, well, listen, like your truth is your truth. You know what I mean? Like it happened. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm just like present. I'm like happy with how things are going. I'm happy that I can like, I'm well enough to get through things. And yeah, that's peace right there for me. It's like I'm well enough to get through it. I'm well enough to know that I'm present enough to like, I don't know.
I mean,
not to ramble, but like, yeah, I just love that like I have the ability and the strength to get through whatever I need to, and that's going to produce peace for me.
You know, I always feel whenever I'm around you, you come present and you're so centered in who you are. Like I don't, maybe it's because of the timing that I catch you, or maybe you're very intentional with every time. I don't know what it is, but I always feel like you're always centered in who you are.
And that's going to wrap up another episode of Producing Peace podcast. To keep up with Yinka Parris or more episodes, follow the links down below. Peace out.